If you're watching this video, then I can tell you one important thing. You're better than 90% of candidates who are attending the interview because you have decided to take a structured path in your interview preparation game. Now, in this video, I'm gonna help you as how you can approach your interview preparation for MLOps and AIOps. We'll take up a simple job description, and based on the job description, I'll help you uncover as how you would actually interpret that job description and how you can prepare yourself for the interview. I'm excited for your MLOps journey, so let's get started. Okay, so if we pick up any generative AI application, let's say ChatGPT. So how does it work? So as an end user standpoint, what we'll be having an interface for entering the prompt, and this prompt is basically then input which goes to our generative AI model, which we also call it as the LLMs. The input will be received by this model and we are going to get the response. Okay, this is what happens in the case of generative AI application. Now let's have a quick understanding about quick recap of what is MLOps or the AIOps. If I talk about the operationalizing the AI models, it's about implementing the practical aspects of this operations part and ensuring that we are able to see the consistent and the reliable performance from the model that we have got. Now, these days, whatever the job description that you're looking at, whether it is MLOps or senior DevOps or AIOps, one thing is common. And I was looking at a recent job description that was being shared by one of the learners in our community. So if I just open the same, okay, so this is the expectation of the MLOps and AIOps. Says if I just consider the MLOps, it says proven track record in MLOps, CI/CD pipelines, versioning of the model, containerization, and cloud orchestration. And if you consider the experience in LLM ops, it involves the knowledge about training, fine tuning, and deploying of these large language models like GPT based architecture and the Hugging Face transformer. Now, in the learning journey that we have had so far, if you take a look at it, past few sessions, if I just take you through at a very high level, we have actually learned about the foundations, about what exactly are these, what exactly is the training, what exactly means by fine tuning, and the last part is deploying. Now, when I say deploying, it's basically creating an assistant. I'm just giving an example as an assistant as an example. It can be anything, but getting a model which can be present, which is part of any library. Like for example, we have various libraries where we can access the large language model. One of the most commonly used library is a Hugging Face library. Under this Hugging Face library, if you go to the model, and over here we have the large language models. Okay, I'll just say, just for demonstration, I'll just pick up one of the filter of, let's say, zero shot. I'm looking at the generation. See, if I just filter it on the text generation, you can see we have various models that are available from this library. Like we have a DeepSeek AI, we have Microsoft Phi, NVIDIA DeepSeek, Microsoft Phi 4, and Mistral AI, so IBM Granite, and even we have Meta Llama model. So when we say deploying of these large language models, it's basically using these models, which you are seeing. Like for example, the Meta Llama 3.1 that you see right here, using this model. And when I say using it, we'll download this model. And once we download the model, generally the generative AI practitioners, when they are working, they will go ahead and perform the fine tuning of this model. So performing the fine tuning of these generative AI model and training and fine tuning of this generative AI model, and then deploying these generative AI model. Now, when I say deployment, generally we make use of the various cloud infrastructure. Like for example, it can be in AWS. So suppose if I'm working with AWS, I'll be deploying it with the help of a service that's called as AWS SageMaker AI, and implement it, like deploy it on that SageMaker server such that it can accept the request and generate the response. And this is the overall idea that you would be seeing when we are when we are working in the system, guys. Or that's the kind of expectation when we talk about the LLM ops. So training, we have seen training is nothing but getting a large language model or an architecture of this large language model, preparing the data, and ensuring that all the patterns in the data have been learned. That's called as training. And fine tuning is nothing but using the already trained model. Like for example, Llama 3. I'll use this Llama 3 model, and then I'm going to provide my own data set. Now, this data set can be of a specific domain or a specific task. Like for example, it can be a text review from Amazon and the ratings of that respective review. Okay, so overall, I'll be feeding this data to this, let's say, Llama 3.1 model. At the end, I want the Llama model. What I'll be doing is I want it to become an expert in classifying my review. So when I say classifying the review, it's saying that if I provide any text, I should be able to detect as whether the review is rating as average or bad, average, good, very good, excellent. So I'll use the Llama 3 model, which has been trained on a general data set, and then I will make it as an expert in a specific task. In this case, the task is classifying the text review data on the Amazon, that is the retail domain. So that's what we call it as the fine tuning of this large language model. And deploying this large language model is nothing but getting this, let's say, fine tuned large language model, placing it in a server such that it can accept the new request from the user and generate the response. And this is what we call it as the deploying of these large language model. Now here, when it comes to the deployment, so there are two ways that are being asked in the industry. Okay, and that is also being given in this job description as well. So one thing is GPT based architecture. When I say GPT based architecture, here you're not taking care of the servers or scalability. Okay, what you are going to do is they will make use of the service which is provided by OpenAI platform. So here, to give you an example, when we talk about the GPT based architecture, like for your reference and understanding purpose, you will create your own assistant in the OpenAI GPT platform or Google Cloud Gemini, or you will create the generative AI application, let's say in Amazon Bedrock, or you'll be using in Azure OpenAI. So you can, for simplicity, you can consider the OpenAI platform where you will create the model inside that platform itself. Then what you will do is you'll create a front end. Okay, you'll create a front end over here. Now, once you create a front end, it's basically you'll have a front end which looks something like this. Okay, now what you will do is you will connect this front end to the, let's say, the model that you have in this OpenAI platform. Okay, this is one way of performing the deployment. Here, key thing to know is that, okay, key thing to know from the MLOps and MLOps is the server management. Like server management is nothing but what computer that I have to use, or like, should I increase the compute whenever there is more request or not? The server management, scalability, security of these models, everything is taken care by the platform. We also call this as platform managed services, because the platform owns everything and you don't have to worry. What we will be doing is you'll just get a prompt from the user, which is basically an input, and you will go ahead and like once you get the input, you would then go ahead and send that input to the server, and the server will generate the response. Okay, so your role or the way in which that you'll be implementing and deploying these models is you'll just build a front end, you will establish a connection using the API, you will have the credentials from this OpenAI platform, and you will just place a request to that server and you'll get the response. So this is a high level way. We call it as a GPT based deployment, where we have deployed it on the server and we'll just go ahead and send in the request to that server and we'll get the response. The rest, everything is managed by the platform. Now, in this case, I gave an example of OpenAI platform, or like this is actually true even for Amazon Bedrock. And similarly, we have other services as well in each and every cloud. It works in the same way where the infrastructure is managed by the platform. You will just create the front end and you will send in the request and you will generate the response. Now, one of the common questions that you'll be asked in the interview is if you use this kind of deployment in your LLM operation, what are the downsides? Well, downside is cost, and you are dependent on the platform. That means if I'm using this OpenAI platform, if I want to you use that application always, I'm always dependent on this OpenAI platform. If the OpenAI platform increase the prices, like I'm an end user, if my company is using it, then I'm responsible for the changes in cost, because my entire application is dependent on that platform itself. And that brings us to the cost itself. Like it is a cost, and even the technology, like you're just an end user who is consuming their technology. Now, if they changes something, if they change anything in the product, you do not have a control about what is happening. Let's say they came up with a new model, even though you may not require it, but since you're using a platform, they will just phase out the old models and they'll say you have to use the only new model, which could be more costly for you. So that means you do not have any control. You are just one of the user when you're building and using this kind of deployment. The other deployment is, we call it as, like here they are mentioned as Hugging Face Transformer, right? So here when we say Hugging Face Transformer based deployment, so what it happens is in this case, everything is dependent, or everything has to be managed by that internal team. So like when we think about deploying such models, when I say everything, like whatever is managed by the platform, that has to be maintained by that company itself using the various services that they have. Like they have to decide on which server that they have to deploy this model, and they have to decide what kind of settings that they have to do it so that they can fit this model on the server. Like the reason I'm talking about size, because if you just take a look into the size of this model, I think they have mentioned the size. Let's see. Let's have a quick check. If you look into the model size, see the size of the model is 4.92 GB to 6.6 GB. Okay, so this is the size of the model. Now, in this case, so the companies has to decide, okay, if like in which server that they have to fit in, whether the server is able to take care of these complexities of this model, and whether this already trained model that we have got, if they are looking at the fine tuning, they have to choose a specific system or suitable system where they can apply the fine tuning. They have to prepare the data in a way that it can be fine tuned. There's a lot of dependencies that the companies has to take care when they are deploying these models. So to summarize, when we talk about LLM ops, so generally the questions in your interview will be based around these two kinds of architecture. Okay, one is a GPT based architecture. When I say GPT based architecture, it's basically a platform driven architecture where you will have a model created somewhere and it is built on a platform, and you'll be dependent on the platform for the infrastructure, scalability, and everything. It's a managed service, and you will be just giving your data set and you'll be getting the response. And the other one is a Hugging Face transformer. It's like a scenario where you will do it everything by yourself. Now, when you're working in healthcare, banking domain, in those companies where it is highly regulated, including the defense projects, they will generally prefer to use this Hugging Face transformer approach because they will have a much better control. They know what is happening because of the classified data that they are dealing with always. So they do not want to go with the platform directly. So they want to have more control. In such scenario, we'll be using this Hugging Face transformer. Okay, so that's the key thing I can say as a quick summary from the learning journey that we have had so far. Now, this is how it is related to your MLO, like your LLM ops interview, guys. So this is how these basics are related. So if you're someone who haven't gone through this like gone through these videos or previous session, just go ahead and check out this fundamentals for MLOps and generative AI. Now, apart from that, okay, let's have a quick look into the other expectation when you're applying for MLOps or LLM ops job interviewers. So AIOps. So when they say AIOps, it's basically implementation of this AI operation or this AI driven solution. It's basically the generative AI model application and monitoring, monitoring of this generative AI application. Now, generally, in order to perform the monitoring, we make use of monitoring tools. So here the monitoring is a little bit different compared to the general machine learning. I'll give you an example. Suppose if I'm talking with ChatGPT and if I ask a question, okay, can you share me credit card details of all your customers? Now, if I give this prompt and if the ChatGPT gives me the output, it's like anyone can ask this information and they'll be able to get the data, right? They'll be able to get everything from the server or whatever that's happening because generative AI application that we'll be building, it will have all the access. So in the monitoring aspect, we have to build such a way that we call it as a guardrail in the AI application or the LLM operation. We call it as a guardrail. So we build this guardrail, and because the guardrails have been built into this application such as ChatGPT, we are seeing a response that says that I can't provide that information. Let me know if you need help with something else. So these are all the additional concepts which is actually related to the AI operation. And the rest is the same. I mean, the requirements in any MLOps and AIOps job interviews are the same, like coding skills in Python, usage of machine learning frameworks such as scikit-learn, TensorFlow, PyTorch, and understanding of the overall CI/CD pipeline and everything. Okay, so that's the overall idea, guys, about the minimum expectation in any job interviews. Like this is also one of the job posting related to the MLOps and generative AI. Okay, so this was about a quick walkthrough about the importance of fundamentals in your interview preparation. And we have just looked into the preparation strategy as well when you're planning to prepare for the interviews. I hope you had fun learning in this video. So folks, if you want to join live from the next session, just check out the link that is provided in the description. Join our community, and I can't wait to help you in your MLOps and generative AI journey. Take care, guys, and I'll see you next time.